Torn Between by STACEY LYNN PATTERSON. Prologue. When you think of death, you usually think of a place your soul goes when you die, heaven or hell. Well, there is a place, a way station, if you continue to that place beyond life and after death, called the Between. It is full of forgotten memories, darkness, and sadness. I have been in the Between for at least 100 years. I have lost the memory of my name, but I have retained bits and pieces of my original past. The one thing that is crystal clear is how I got here. I remember being in the prime of my life, a young man of old wealth, unable to recognize boundaries is what landed me here. One night I was driving through the heart of town with one of many beautiful debutantes I had been courting. We were drinking and laughing when I rear-ended a car stopped at an intersection. The driver got out and walked up to me, pulled out a revolver and shot me in the chest where I died on the spot. Next thing I knew, I was walking through a yellow door into darkness, surrounded by shadowy figures called the Forgotten. They seized me, and in a quick, in one fluid movement, the largest of them snatched my soul, leaving me an empty, sad shell. Then just as quickly, they disappeared back into the darkness. Alone and confused, I began to wander through the darkness, where I eventually realized time is different here than in the world of the living. Time does not exist. To keep my sanity, I convinced myself I was on an adventure. Instead of aimlessly wandering, I explored my new surroundings. I now know this place like the back of my hand. The Between has a plethora of colored doors that serve different purposes. The yellow one is the most important, as it is the entrance to the Between, and it appears and disappears according to the lunar cycle. The red door is the Hall of Despair. It calls to souls that have no destination, and souls that died of suicide. The blue door is where transitions take place, such as reincarnation, exiting to other realms, heaven, hell, or other. This is also where the elders reside, lay down judgment and discipline. That is the door I have become familiar with. The blue door is where the elders summoned me after what I considered a time of 6 years. They felt that I was a good candidate for reincarnation. My first host was an archaeologist named Fernand Shansky. In 1930, he was digging in the jungles of the African Congo. Fernand, was translating some ancient text for an incantation for jumping from soul to soul. I did not realize at the time how beneficial the incantation would be. Since I had access to this incantation, I was able to jump to a wealthy and prominent host. Never again would I get my soul dirty with any riffraff or poverty-stricken host, although there were a few narrow escapes that forced me to jump to an ordinary commoner. In 1945, in my host's body, my team and I were on a dig in North Sinai when the entrance to the site collapsed, trapping us inside. Amid our panic, they realized that the oxygen was running out. I instantly remembered the incantation. Praying that it worked, I quietly recited it to myself as I focused on one of my team members outside of the collapsed entrance. Just as I was taking my last breath, I was suddenly outside the tomb. At first I was confused and a little disoriented as the people around me screamed, "Dig before it was too late!" I realized that the incantation had worked. I did not like it, but it was better than being dead again and stuck in the Between. For the next 3 decades, I jumped from dying soul to living soul all over the world. Then one day the elders finally caught on to my scheme. It was around 1978. I was in the process of jumping from yet another dying soul, named Seamus Cringe. The elders appeared as I was chanting the last of the incantation. They reached inside my dying host, hurling me back to the Between. I was judged and convicted of desertion, utilizing unauthorized spells, and sentenced to infinity in the Between, with no possibility of release. I felt like I died all over again, but only worse. because I knew exactly where I was. The devastation of being trapped here sent me into an uncontrollable rage. Since then, I have slowly been losing myself to bouts of delirium, desperation, and unsurmountable rage. My time is spent terrorizing the forgotten. I feed off the consistent flow of souls that either pass through or become permanent residents. My burning rage absorbs the power of the between and gives me the ability to occasionally reach beyond the boundaries, to speak through conduits or see through a seer's eyes. It is only a temporary fix to my imprisonment. My ultimate desire is to be back in the world of the living. Lucky for me, the brightest soul I have come across just dropped into the between. The soul of Gabriella Dixon. Her soul teeters on the borders of both the living and the dead. This is a rare attribute, and a perfect way for me to travel out of here. I plan to keep her here long enough to bind her soul to mine. I will then pull all the power I can from the between to force open the yellow door, push her back to the world of the living, piggybacking her soul. My only desire is to be back in the world of the living.